Hey everyone, and welcome back to another World of Warcraft Legion Alpha video. Today, I'm going to be giving you a look at the Destruction Warlock in its current iteration. Now, it has just been activated on the Alpha. In fact, it's the last spec to be activated on the Alpha. It's, broadly speaking, going to be familiar. However, there are some decently key changes and some, actually quite a few, new talents and sort of different options going on with the talents. So let's just start it off with something rather familiar. You've got Confligate, Immolate, Incinerate, and then Chaos Bolt. All things which, broadly speaking, do the same thing that they used to do. So Confligate will be instant on a 10.5 second recharge. It's got 2 charges. Because of a talent, Backdraft, it will reduce the cast time of Incinerate and Chaos Bolt by 30% for 5 seconds. That's different from the passive that it used to be, that was just something that you always had. And it will generate 1 soul shard. You might be thinking, soul shards? What? I thought we used Burning Embers. Yeah, they've actually changed the resource system. There's also Immolate. This is a 1.3 second cast. You burn the enemy, it does 26,900 fire damage immediately, and then 80,000 over 15 seconds, and then finally Incinerate, 1.75 second cast. It just chucks some fire at the enemy, it does about 53,000 fire damage. Now that we've covered those 3 abilities, let's just talk about Soul Shards, because they are different to Burning Embers. The way Burning Embers worked is that you would generate Burning Embers granularly, so you would sort of generate, towards your Burning Embers, and then you would eventually get a full Burning Ember. Then you start generating your second one. So you would do an Incinerate and you'd get a tenth of a Burning Ember. You do another Incinerate, now you've got 2/10, and you build your way up to having 1 Burning Ember, and then your second and your third and your fourth and your fifth. That's not how it works. You either have a soul shard or you do not have a soul shard. Confligate will give you 1 soul shard. Now I have 2 soul shards. As for Immolate, well, it's got a 15% chance to generate a soul shard when it ticks, and that chance is doubled on critical strike. So the more crit that you've got, the more soul shards you will be getting from your Immolate. Now, this is, I'm going to anticipate, going to be a point of contention among Warlocks. My personal feeling after testing this out for about 2 hours is that I preferred the older way, because there was less sort of randomness involved. It was a bit easier to predict your resources as they came in, and that meant that things like, say, timing up your Chaos Bolt sort of volleys with, say, Dark Soul instability, you could kind of work that out in your head. That said, Dark Soul is gone, but let's talk about Chaos Bolt first. This costs 2 soul shards. It does a big blast of chaos that does 84,000 chaos damage, and because of a talent, restores 35% mana. Chaos Bolt always crits, and my crit chance increases its damage, so here is a Chaos Bolt. Boom. So, what is your basic gameplay? Pretty simple. You maintain Immolate, you ensure you always have a Confligate charging, and then you just spam everything else into Incinerate. You'll note that Incinerate actually has nothing to do with the generation of Chaos Bolts. Additionally, if you ever get to 5 soul shards, you will want to do a Chaos Bolt, because if you have 5, and then your Immolate generates 1, well, that 1 will have been wasted. That very basically is your gameplay. One key thing about the way that the Warlock used to work was essentially that you would pull up your Chaos Bolts, and then you would do Dark Soul, and then Dark Soul would give you 30% extra. It was either crit chance or damage, just sort of slipped off the top of my head. But that obviously was extremely powerful because it powered up your Chaos Bolts. Chaos Bolts have a lot of damage, 30% of whatever on top of that is a massive impact on your DPS. Well, Dark Soul is actually gone, and it has not been replaced, pretty much has not been replaced with a similar cooldown. Now, we do have some cooldowns. We have one which to a lesser degree does fulfill its function, but not as a baseline element of the spec. At its very base, this spec is basically these 4 buttons, and then, your Summon Doomguard, your Summon Infernal. Let's just actually go through all of the abilities that you've got. So there's Banish. Banish is a demon. There's your Health Stone, your Soul Well, your Demonic Gateway, Burning Rush, which is, again, a talent as it used to be, Chaos Bolt, Drain Life, sucks some life out of your enemy, Enslave Demon, Command Demon, which just makes your active demon do its special attack, Confligate, I have Kilrog. See, it's pretty similar stuff. Fear, life tap, which, you know, I think that's the same as it is in live. Rain of Fire is 3 soul shards, calls down a rain of hellfire, dealing 163,000 fire damage over 7 seconds to enemies in the area. We've got Havoc. Now, Havoc will mark a target with Havoc for 8 seconds, causing your single target spells to also strike the Havoc victim. So let's just run down and use Havoc. If I were to put Havoc on this Raiders training dummy, it lasts for 20 seconds, remember. You can now see that my spells are indeed being mirrored between him, and that looks particularly cool with something like a Chaos Bolt. Okay, now I think that... Did the Chaos Bolt work there? Or maybe it just ran out. Anyway, yeah, basically that spreads your damage out. Now, what is gone is the ability, and I've forgotten the name of it, unfortunately, but you would toggle that ability, and then you get the AoE version of, like, your Immolate and your Incinerate, just that instead of costing mana, they would cost Burning Embers. That gameplay has been removed. I actually think that's rather unfortunate, as much as I kind of like Havoc here. I did prefer that previous way of doing things. That said, I don't even know if that was in Warlords of Draenor. Haven't played my Warlock since Siege of Orgrimmar. Yeah, I know, I rolled a lock for that. Anyway, we've got Shadow Fury, which is your stun as a talent, but hey, still a thing. Hell Funnel, Immolate, Soulstone, Summon Demon, so your similar host of demons. One thing that is worth showing you is that the Void Walker has a new skin, which was actually just added on today's alpha build. I think it looks very nice indeed. Incinerate, and then we just move on to our Doomguard, our Infernal, Unending Breath, Unending Resolve, which is just 40% less damage taken, and you're immune to Interrupt and Silence for 8 seconds. Your Mastery, Chaotic Energies, your spells deal a random amount of additional damage up to 33%. Damage you take is reduced by a random amount up to 7%. I actually don't like that Mastery because it doesn't really impact your gameplay that much. I thought that maybe they would have had a Mastery tying in a bit more to, say, Critical Strike and its interplay with Chaos Bolt, or maybe your Immolate ticks and your soul shards, but that's not what that is. And then there's Soul Leech. All single target damage done by you and your minions grants you and your pet a shadowy shield that absorbs 15% of the damage dealt for 15 seconds, up to 15% of your maximum health. With that covered, let's talk about talents, because this is where we really do get into a proper discussion. First of all, Backdraft. It used to be a passive that you got at, I think, level like 70, 69, something like that. So casting Conflag will reduce the cast time of your Incinerate and Chaos Bolt by 30% for 5 seconds. So, look at this. We do a Conflag, and oh wow, look at this. Now my Incinerates are really fast. It's just disappeared, and now my Incinerates are a slower cast. So, there you go. It also affects your Chaos Bolts, which is quite nice. We've got, and this is a cool one, Roaring Blaze. Conflagate increases your remaining Immolate damage on the target by 50% until Immolate expires or is refreshed. Now, the way this works is really cool. You want to use this immediately after you apply Immolate. This is this whole thing where, like, an Immolate is refreshing on top of another Immolate and replacing it, so you can basically replace it with a stronger version, similar to some of the gameplay ideas that were perhaps going on with DPS snapshotting. So the gameplay here is that you would Immolate and then instantly Conflagate, which will increase that fire damage by 50% for the rest of its duration. Look at the, if you look at the text there, it says your remaining Immolate damage until Immolate expires or is refreshed. So if it's refreshed, I'm losing that benefit. And the cooldown of all of this stuff, you know, Immolate lasts for, what, 13 seconds. Conflagate's got a 10.5 second recharge. So those are kind of abilities that are, like, synced with each other. There's also Shadow Burn. 1 soul shard. Shadow Burn is now a talent. It doesn't require 20% health or anything like that. Blast the target for 87,599 shadow damage. Now you might be thinking, hang on, is that competitive with Chaos Bolt? Because Chaos Bolt here says that it's 84,000 chaos damage for 2 soul shards. Well, no. Chaos Bolt will convert your Critical Strike into more damage, so a Chaos Bolt with no other modifiers here against this Raiders training dummy is doing like 250k damage. We'll do another one. Let's see, it'll do, 288. Whereas the Shadow Burn will do about 80 to 90. So it is absolutely in a single target situation, or just in any situation essentially, for raw DPS, it's worth using your Chaos Bolt. What's nice about the Shadow Burn is, you can use it on the move because it's an instant, but also it will generate 2 soul shards if the target dies within 5 seconds. This means if you are questing out in the world, that's kind of useful. If there is a whole bunch of trash going on, then you will be, say, in a boss fight, you'll be able to generate some soul shards off of this, because you'll spend 1 and you'll gain 2. Do that a few times, you'll have full soul shards, and you'll be able to maybe do some Havoked Chaos Bolts, and that will really do a lot of damage. Or perhaps, you can use that to put down a Rain of Fire. So that's Shadowburn. I'm just going to go back to Backdraft for the sake of this testing stuff. We've got Reverse Entropy, reduces the cast time of Chaos Bolt and Rain of Fire by 0.5 seconds, and they restore 35% of your maximum mana. Now, to show what it's like without this, I'm just going to go into Fire and Brimstone. So, I'm just going to do loads of Incinerates here, and you can see, oh look at this, my mana is decreasing. It's decreasing rather rapidly. It gets to the stage where you will have to life tap, which converts 10% of your max health into 30% of your max mana. But you can see if I then go to Reverse Entropy, and hopefully it will let me switch over this talent soon enough. So if I go over to that, and then do a Chaos Bolt, if you look at my mana bar, you can see I just regained some mana. So that's Reverse Entropy. Fire and Brimstone, Incinerate, now hits all enemies near your target. So if we turn that on, run over here, throw an Incinerate out, it should, it'll do the AoE. Sadly, it did not attack the rat, but, I can fix that. Anyway, that's Fire and Brimstone. You'll be using that in an AoE situation. Actually, yes, Fire and Brimstone was, that was the thing which you would toggle, which would, make your Incinerate cost a Burning Ember, but that would also apply to your Immolate and stuff like that, and your Chaos Bolt, and I thought it was a really cool ability. Anyway, that's Fire and Brimstone. We move on to Mana Tap. Consumes 40% max mana to give you 10% increased damage for 20 seconds. So here's, if you were to imagine the scenario that this is being used, we're just going to Immolate, blast all our conflags out, just trying to get as many soul shards as I can quickly so I can demo this for you. So now I've got 5. Now, as I said, Dark Soul Instability, which is the thing that you would always pair with your Chaos Bolt volleys, that is gone. But Mana Tap does exist. It will give you 10% increased damage. So what you can do is just Mana Tap and then throw out your various different Chaos Bolts, and you'll be able to chain quite a few together. If you're doing your sort of weaving in some Confligates, you'll be able to get 8? Yeah, let's just say 8 sometimes or whatever. Maybe 8 Chaos Bolts sort of done roughly in a row with the duration of your Mana Tap. So there's some gameplay for you. I'll leave Mana Tap on my talents. We move on to Demon Skin. So Soul Leech Absorption now passively recharges at a rate of 1% max health every 1 second and may absorb up to 20% max health. It just makes that a bit better. Mortal Coil, 45-second cooldown, horrifies the target, gives you 11% max health. Pretty sweet. And then Shadow Fury, this is your stun. Stuns all targets, or enemies even within 8 yards for 3 seconds. Goes like that, and everyone's stunned. I really like that ability. We move on to the 60 tier and Eradication. Chaos Bolt increases the damage you deal to the target by 12% for 6 seconds. Now this might make you think, okay, what you need to do is space out your Chaos Bolts as much as you can. You can do that, and if you can manage it, so you do Chaos Bolt, and then you weave another ability in, and then another Chaos Bolt, then you weave an ability in, that will work, and you will be fine. But if you try to, say, weave 2 abilities in, then that may drop off, and obviously losing 12% increased damage on a Chaos Bolt is actually a really big deal. That said, think about it. You've got the 12% damage increase from Eradication, you've got the damage increase from Mana Tap, and that all adds up to make your Chaos Bolts rather scary. We move on to Cataclysm. So this will do a big sort of thing of damage in an area, and then put Immolate on all of those targets. This kind of has a synergy with Channel Demon Fire, and I'll just cover it now because it's kind of relevant. So this will launch 15 bolts of Fellfire over 2.6 seconds at random targets afflicted by your Immolate within 40 yards. Each bolt does 11,000 damage, so it pretty much does this roughly the same amount of damage no matter what. But if you were going to be spreading that out, what you could do was, you chuck down a Cataclysm, which does that, puts Immolate on those targets, and then you channel out your Channel Demon Fire, which really does look quite cool. Anyway, we move from Cataclysm onto Soul Harvest. This immediately gives you 5 Soul Shards. It's a straight DPS cooldown, so there you go. That's Soul Harvest. We move on to Demonic Circle. Just summons your Demonic Circle for 6 seconds, then you can do the other thing to teleport back to it. There's Burning Rush, so you lose health every second, but you run really fast. There you go. I think it's got a new spell effect as well. That's Burning Rush for you. And then you've got Dark Pact. Sacrifice 20% of your demon's current health to shield you for 400% of the sacrificed health for 20 seconds. If you've got no demon, it uses your health instead. So there you go, Dark Pact, lovely stuff. Now we've got Supremacy, Service, and Sacrifice. Supremacy lets you indefinitely maintain control of a Doomguard or an Infernal. Infernal for AoE, Doomguard for single target. That's really boring. These are cool when they're like big cooldowns that really affect your gameplay, but when they're always there, I think it makes them less special. We've got Service. This basically gives you gives you 4 more abilities, 1 for the Imp, the Voidwalker, the Succubus, and the Fell Hunter, and basically allows you to summon a second demon which fights for you for 25 seconds and deals 100% increased damage. The demon will immediately use one of its abilities when summoned. Basically, this is, it's a bit of a cooldown ability. So if I'm, say in combat here and I wanted to, summon my Imp in, I can click that, the Imp will immediately do its special ability and appear, and that guy will stay there for a little bit of time. We then have Sacrifice. This will make you sacrifice your current demon, causing your spells to sometimes do extra shadow damage to the target and other enemies within 8 yards. The effect lasts for an hour. So next we've got Wreak Havoc. This basically is the same as regular Havoc, but it now lasts for 20 seconds and has no cooldown, so you can maintain 100% uptime. Let's just take an example. You're fighting Twin Emperors. For some reason, you're in Anchorage and you need to do cleave damage because it's very hard. I don't know. You're in a cleave fight of any kind. You can always maintain 100% uptime on Havoc. Havoc, of course, will cause your single target spells to also strike the Havoc victim. So basically, it's really, really, really good cleave all the time. So that's kind of nifty. Then we've got Channel Demon Fire, which I already covered. You put Immolate on something, you channel Demon Fire, and the little blobs kill them. And then finally, we've got Soul Conduit. Every soul shard you spend has a 30% chance to be refunded. Now, that sounds kind of boring, and I suppose in some ways it is, but just as the example, it means you can, with your Chaos Bolts, you can kind of go on for a very long time. So there it generated 2 back. Here it didn't generate any back. This next bolt, did it do anything? I don't think it did. And, oh, yeah, well, that was a little bit unfortunate. But sometimes that can, that 30% chance can really work out in your favor, and you can get a chain of maybe 5, 6, one time I even got 7 Chaos Bolts in a row due to Soul Conduit. So, yeah, that's there as gameplay. Now, we also do have our artifact weapon. It's got a very nifty ability called Dimensional Rift. Rips a hole in space and time, opening a portal that damages your target. So we put that down, and this portal appears. Now, what is sort of annoying is it doesn't do a great job of indicating how long the portal's got left. Maybe if that was a buff that was tracked above this new part of the default World of Warcraft UI that my mouse is hovering around, that would be dead handy. It's got a 45-second recharge, and you can see it's got 3 charges in total. Pretty cool ability. Now, some things do affect it. Specifically, Incinerate has a 15% chance to reduce the remaining cooldown on Dimensional Rift by 45 seconds, i.e., it's got a 15% chance of just giving you a new Dimensional Rift to use. What does kind of suck is it's not like the spell button glows or does anything to signify that that's actually happening. There's no aura thingy appearing, which is a little bit unfortunate, but that's basically the gameplay that's going on. You've got a few different choices that you can make. If you kind of want the really, try-hard version of the spec, then you're going to have your Roaring Blaze, so you can kind of power up your Immolates. You'll probably have, on top of that, your Mana Tap, along with maybe your Eradication, and, you can build out some gameplay, though. To be completely honest with you, I cannot help but feel that something has been lost in the transition over to soul shards from Embers. I preferred how Embers generated the resource granularly. That said, I did not like the talent which gave you 200% extra Ember generation, because that just meant that Chaos Bolts were not something that were super special anymore. You're just throwing them out all the time. So I like how Chaos Bolts, they're still not a super common thing. I just don't think that spamming Incinerate is that interesting as your sort of default downtime gameplay. Now, that said, you'll be weaving in your Demon Fires and your Dimensional Rifts into that, which does make it a bit more engaging as you approach the higher levels. But yeah, I really would have liked Dark Soul Instability to be back. I really like that, along with the Chaos Bolts. as a core part of the gameplay of this class. But anyway, that's pretty much it for the video. I'm dead keen to see what people who played Warlocks and Warlords of Draenor think about it. Of course, it's only just appeared in the alpha. There's always time for change. Hopefully that means granular chaos or soul shard generation. I mean, come on, let's just move it back to the Embers. I think that was a bit more thematic, and maybe Dark Soul could come back. But anyway, that's it for me. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I will see you next time.